How to forgive without accepting injustice, and if everything happens by our free will, was there ever anything to forgive in the first place? No, except your own distorted belief that something went wrong. So, when you believe something is out of alignment, something is out of place, something is wrong, injustice is happening, ultimately what we're forgiving and healing is the fact that we believe that when we know it's not true. Even when injustice seemingly gets done, and I'm not saying you can't take action when you see someone being abused and stop or intervene the scenario, but what I am saying is that just from your own point of view, in regards to your own perspectives about life in general and the world out there and the kids in Africa and the deforestation and the people in your life that are abusing you or have abused you in the past, it's very important, if your priority is to actually find healing within yourself and alignment within yourself. Now, if your priority is to get back at people, then what I'm about to say makes no sense. If your objective is to rise above the crowd and like be the biggest one and like prove to people that they have oppressed you, then what I'm about to say to you makes no sense. But if your true intention is to actually just, fuck it, I want alignment within myself. I know that that's where the healing lies. I know that ultimately nothing else matters. I know that all these millions of higher selves, they've got this game on planet Earth. I don't need to worry too much about that. I can be inspired in certain ways, but I don't need to take that all on. And when it comes to my immediate personal circumstances, those that have seemingly oppressed or abused me, forgiveness of them does not even involve me forgiving them per se. Ultimately, that might be a tool into this, but true forgiveness is indeed the letting go of the separative point of view that feels abused to begin with. When you can forgive yourself for believing you're a separate physical being that has been abused, now suddenly, along with that whole perspective frequency domain chess game with its own parameters and rules, you will let go of everyone that ever hurt you, all at once. Just like that, because you've forgiven yourself for believing in a lower vibratory belief that's not true. Which is, again, exactly what my intention was with the post about the feminine. Just relax. Stop fighting this war because you perpetuate it within yourself. And I would love for you to just, as much as possible, and this goes for everyone, not just females, just relax that battle. Admit defeat. Whatever. Let the dudes win. Whatever. Let them be the most, like, brutes. Let them be the brutes. Who gives a shit? What matters is that you're in alignment with who you are. That's what matters. When you really check in with yourself, it's not about retribution, because then you're still playing within this playing field. When you want to have equal rights, you're still playing within this playing field. Now, when you stop playing within this playing field, some of you, not nearly as much of you as you think, not as nearly as many of you as you think, but some of you will be genuinely inspired to fight for equal rights. But 98% of you will simply not be interested in that game altogether, because it's not part of your theme. You're just playing this game of compensation, of fighting against something that you believe has oppressed you earlier on. And now you're fighting the game by its own parameters, and you can never win. You can suck on it. You can never win. You can only suck on it. You can only feel like you're losing. You can only feel bad in this game. Even when you win, you'll feel bad. So if true healing and balance is what you're looking for, and not revenge or retribution or equal rights, if you want just to feel your connection to existence, then you need to forgive yourself for believing that there even is such a thing as separation, injustice, oppression, suppression, etc. And you need to get past that whole game altogether. You cannot win from that belief by believing that there still is injustice to fight. Okay? Again, this doesn't mean that when you're empowered that you cannot act in certain ways that will cause greater balance and justice in the world or in the people around you. Yes, you can. You can absolutely, totally stand up for the most balanced point of view that would resolve all the other individuals that are part of that dynamic and help them see, oh, wait a second, I came from a biased point of view. Now I'm more balanced. Thank you for contributing this, not by fighting with me, but by authentically standing up for this greater good, not for yourself, but for the greater balanced perspective that you had a vision of that I did not see. There's a difference between standing up for a more balanced perspective and offering that to those with free will, and so they can take it if they want it because they see it more clearly because you offered it, or fighting for yourself and all the people that ever hurt you and did you wrong. There's a complete difference in energy. From that point of view, people will never accept your equal rights. From the point of view of no longer needing it, having forgiven your own limiting beliefs about being a separate individual, about not being connected to the universe, about not being supported, not being loved, about being treated unjust. Once you let go of that whole playing field and forgive yourself for even believing something as dumb as that, as not possible as that, I was stupid, I was dumb, I was innocently dumb to believe that I could be separate from this magnificent creation, that I could be done any injustice whatsoever, that I could be imposed upon against my free will. Clearly, I attracted this to myself. Yes, the abuse. Yes, that was part of my theme. Yes, before incarnation, I knew I was going to most likely have that experience because it would serve my theme. And later in life, I would transform all that self-perceived darkness and separation into love, light, joy, and reconnection. And from that place, I would be able to actually contribute to this somewhat imbalanced still planet Earth collective consciousness by actually being a voice for the greater balance of things, not just for myself. But because of the experiences gained in my life, I've now become a whole person. I've now become wise and loving in my ability to convey this message to people. So you have to appreciate the fact that you are oppressed and abused and injustice has seemingly been done to you as being a part of your overall free will. Ultimately, you need to forgive yourself from having attracted that to yourself and realize you attracted that to yourself for particular reasons. Now healing can take place because now it's just you and the universe. No longer you, everybody else, and then the universe. It's just you and your connection to the infinite immediately. Now this is the only way you can win this game and heal within yourself and then contribute to the greater good. But most people don't want that. They just want to be right. They just want to prove that they've been done injustice too, even though they know at some level of their being that it was their overall free will that chose that experience for their own learning. So it makes no sense to ramble on about these inequalities and start fighting these games because you'll never win it from within its own playing field. You need to accept that that's its own game, but you can't win from within that belief system. You have to transcend the belief system altogether. Now you can gain the clarity, the expansion, the wisdom, the connection, and the bliss that you need to actually see things from a more impersonal, just point of view. You cannot create greater justice if you come from the belief of injustice being possible. Just means balanced, ultimately. And you don't have a balanced point of view if you feel harmed and hurt, and you need to prove to other people that you have been harmed and hurt. So, forgiveness of self seems to be the hardest because it's the only thing to forgive in the end, because anything you've ever experienced has been because of your own beliefs. So, ultimately, forgiveness of other comes through some form of forgiveness of self. Even if you use the permission slip of, oh, I forgive you, Daddy, for slapping me in the face so many times, if that is the experience that leads you into greater alignment, by all means, forgive Daddy. But ultimately, ultimate healing and forgiveness that takes care of all of it is seeing that Daddy was a projection of your consciousness, abuser was a projection of your consciousness, perpetrator was a projection of your consciousness, an unfair planet is a projection of your consciousness, and it's all you accepting to experience that reality to go through a particular learning experience, which is not a bad thing. Bad things have to be there, even though they're not essentially bad, but seemingly horrific things need to be there in order for certain consciousnesses, such as some of you, to learn from these experiences and gain greater relationality with the one infinite creator in a way that it hasn't before done. Don't take away the suffering, take yourself out of the suffering and show other people that they can do the same. You have to allow for suffering to be an optional reality for people to choose from, because otherwise consciousness could not learn from suffering anymore. So it needs to be available. It's not your job to get rid of people's suffering and injustice. Injustice has to be there for consciousness to be able to have certain experiences. If there was no injustice available to consciousnesses, they could not experience their relationship to the creator from certain points of view. So it's good that there's injustice in the world. It's okay. There's infinite parallel realities. Some worlds are very unjust. Some worlds are very harmonious and heaven on earth-like. Which one you experience is ultimately up to where you shift your vibration to. But you have to allow for the full all that isness of creation to include literally all that it can be, including the things you don't like. But you have to accept that free will choose per individual what to experience for themselves. That's not your responsibility. What your responsibility is to tune into why you are experiencing what you are experiencing, see the limiting beliefs that might have attracted that reality, learn from the experience, transcend it, see it all as love, light in form, and now you're moving on to the next level, to the next lesson, to the next experience, to the more expanded, heavenly version of yourself. So healing is all about self-healing. If you can forgive the fact that you have believed in something dumb, such as lack, separate, innocently so, I'm not judging this, but it is dumb when you look at it logically from a universal point of view. It's just not very intelligent. It's innocent. I don't blame you for it. I don't blame myself for it, but it is kind of dumb to believe that lack can exist. When you look at it from a bigger point of view, it's kind of dumb to believe that oppression exists when you see everything as free will. It's kind of not intelligent, but that's okay. That's how we're brought up. But now we're gaining intelligence so we can actually be a little critical of ourselves while seeing that that's all coming from love and light and not from self-judgment, but from self-love and expansion. The desire to expand into truthful perspectives sometimes allow you to say, this is stupid, this is smart, this makes no sense, this makes sense, this is illogical, this is logical, this is dumb, this is intelligent. Just so that you have those choices and you can quickly make them for yourselves. And then see everything as love, light from those higher levels of consciousness. So, forgive yourself for believing in dumb stuff, such as the things your mommy and daddy taught you, like separation, like oppression, like equal rights, like I say something stupid like equal rights is because it's based within the playing field of inequality even is possible. When you know from a true, absolute free will point of view, it doesn't. Then you can still bring into form a greater example of what justice would look like on a physical form, but you're not judging it as being ultimately unjust because you know everyone chooses their own reality. And you accept that. You have the humility to accept that. If you find yourself resisting this, you're not being humble enough to accept the fact that the universe works by free will, not by things going wrong all the time. Things never go wrong. They're chosen. Not always from the brain cells, but always from a consciousness level.